I told Augustus the broad outline of my miracle diagnosis with stage 4 thyroid cancer. When I was 13, I didn't tell him the diagnosis. It came 3 months after I got my first period, like, congratulations, you're a woman now, die. Rhyme. I couldn't trust my own emotions, which emotional reactions were justified, if any, and which ones were tainted by the mental illness of BPD. I found myself fiercely guarding and limiting my emotional reactions, chastising myself for possible distortions and motivations. People who had known me years ago would barely recognize me now. I had become quiet and withdrawn in social settings, no longer the life of the party. After all, how could I know if my boisterous humor were spontaneous or just a borderline desire to be the center of attention? I could no longer trust any of my heartfelt beliefs and opinions on politics, religion, or life. The debate queen had withered. I found myself looking at every single side of an issue, unable to come to any conclusions for fear they might be tainted. My lifelong ability to be assertive had turned into a constant state of passivity. It's true that AI can mimic the human brain, but it can also outperform us by mere humans by discovering complex patterns that no human being could ever process and identify. Calling it lunacy makes it easier to explain away the things we don't understand. Everyone may agree upon the diagnosis, but not everyone may consent to the therapy. Indeed, for healing, things have to be sacrificed at times, and separation or lose or loss might always be heartbreaking, leave scars of remorse or regret. Before you examine the body of the patient, Rampant Reliant, a stigma against mental illness is a scourge with many faces, and a medical community wears a number of those faces. No one would ever say that someone with a broken arm or broken leg is less than a whole person, but people say that or imply that all the time about people with mental illnesses. Mental illness is among the most stigmatized of categories. People are ashamed of being mentally ill. They fear disclosing their condition to their friends and confidants, and certainly to their employers. Some people dislike diagnoses, disagreeably calling them boxes and labels, but I've always found comfort in pre-existing conditions. I like to know that I'm not pioneering an inexplicable experience. You can't compare men or women with mental disorders to the normal expectations of men and women, and without mental orders, you're dealing with symptoms, and until you understand that, you will always try to find sane explanations among the same behaviors. You will always have unreachable standards and disappointments if you want to survive. In a marriage to someone that has a disorder, you have to judge their actions from a place of realistic expectations in regards to that person's upbringing and diagnosis. Having DID is for many people a very lonely thing. The ding again about the rim. Again, worries about the power of a doctor's suggestion to influence and shape his patient's mind, whether they are made under hypnosis or not, are still with us. American psychology effectively guaranteed agreed its place as a cultural icon by helping to create the pathologies it simultaneously promised to treat. What if, instead of being diagnosed, being called mentally ill, what if I had been able to receive care for its own sake, to be in distress, to ask for care, to receive it? What if there were a space in this world for care? A diagnosis is not a prediction. It doesn't tell you what's possible. It doesn't change you, your colleague, your child, or your friend. It just opens up tricks and tools to thrive, dividing human differences into distinct illnesses. It's like dividing up the color spectrum into distinct colors. While most of us can easily tell the difference between yellow and orange, we probably can't agree on exactly where yellow ends and orange begins, because there is no single point at which one becomes the other. Similarly, the border between health and sickness is the judgment call we make about whether a person's symptoms are impairing their lives and warrant treatment. Two great pains mark my grief trail like Karen's. Knowing that it was going to happen, and it happening, but unlike Karen's, I can never navigate back the way I came. Superstition is the opium of the ill-informed public. Superstition is the opium of the ill-informed public. Conspiracy is the opium of the over-informed public. With 10 minutes of Googling, every flippin' flat earther feels and behaves like a reputable rocket scientist. Human mind has a prehistoric predisposition of paranoia to counteract ignorance. Minds cooks up brilliant fantasies, thus scientific expertise succumbs to Facebook expertise. Facebook groups become authority on medical diagnosis. Self-diagnosis is a modern-day healthcare crisis where the patient desperately tries to redeem control and trying to oust the experts from science and medicine. Google Certified Society only heralds its own funeral. Take people out of healthcare, and healthcare is dead. Take doctors out of healthcare, and healthcare is damaged. The value of any diagnosis is what it has to offer the sufferer. I wish I could go back in the time to my life before the news, before my eyes would seek the arms on the clock like a tick. I just like to calculate. A few minutes ago, my life was different. An hour ago, I didn't know. 24 hours ago, I had no idea my life was about to change forever. Friday, 1 week later, I have a moment of normality. And when I first wake up, just a moment, a single moment, just before remembering at this time a week ago, I still didn't know. For the rest of my life, I will never not know. The drought came with the volcano, street lamps frowned through, ash made dark, homes turned into hills with chimneys peeking out of the summits. We hummed as we trudged through the wreckage until our hums turned into songs. We didn't know what else to do. Tears when it water the grass, cries when it called the birds home. I'm spending forever. Spending right off the top of my dome. Down the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. Spend there I go off the top of my dome. Bye forever, infinite. Rhyme diagnosis, psychosis.